Hey, Bill, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, so I've been in sales for most of my professional career. I started off in the telecom industry as a young fella as a technician back in the late '80s. I pivoted um, to the security industry for a couple decades. So security meaning the alarm and camera and access control technology industry. I started my own company. I partnered up with another fella, and then that partnership ended. I came back into the telecom industry. So, well, sorry, when that partnership ended, I went back to my alma mater in the security business, and then uh, eventually found my way back into telecom. So it's been an interesting journey, and yeah, yeah, I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
So you like the soft, easy markets, right? Security and
Yeah,
telecom.
yeah. The
Nobody else
technology's
does it.
easy. No, complex sales. That's who. No, that's for the easy
What do you like
peasy.
about sales?
I think what I like best about sales, and it's funny. I'm not the biggest fan of the word sales, and I don't want to come off like that guy,
Yeah.
but I'm in industries where it's very consultative. It's very we're not really selling something. We're really hoping to provide a solution that's going to solve a problem, right? And at the end, if you buy something, yeah, I've sold it, but that's really not my process. My process is to learn about you and what your issues are, and hopefully I have something that's gonna you know make your business work better, communicate better, or look better. So that's and when you walk away and you know that that person is better off before you met them, or they give you a referral, and you've built those relationships, and people are like, oh, hey, I was talking to so and so, and you did a great job. that's that's really, it's tough to beat that feeling.
But how do you create that scenario in your world? Because we view it, you view it, I view it that way, but the prospect may not view it that way. That just seems like, oh, there's Bill, there's Brian, there's Bobby, there's
Yeah,
Joey.
yeah. It's a good question because I think the best approach, and I learned this early in my career, is don't get caught selling. You really, if you're listening, and you care. If you're listening and you care, it'll naturally evolve, because not every deal is worth doing.
Oh, it's
Or
not.
maybe there's not a solution that you can provide, but maybe someone else can. And that's happened many times. That people say, Bill, I need the internet to be, I need 10 gig of fiber, and it'd be like, but if we do it this way, you really don't. Actually, we can get you. Everyone's telling you need this, but if we just play with the pieces a little bit, we can actually do a really great job for you with that. And so it's really listening and setting the stage, I think, is the most important part.
And what keeps you in this space? Is it tenure? You just know it really well, or you love it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly nothing that I ever thought I'd be, like, because I'm a director of sales, so I manage a team. And all things being equal, if I'm being honest, I love the sale, I love the hunt, I love the kill.
Yeah.
That's in my blood. And so now, I don't get to do that very often, or really at all anymore. However, what keeps me in is when I get this fresh piece of clay that I get to, I know there's talent in there,
Twist into
and all of
your
a sudden,
idea.
yeah, I get to just play and mix, and nurture and grow, and all of a sudden they start doing this, and that's a kick. Like, that
Yeah.
is the most rewarding thing I think I've really experienced in my sales careers, is when you see, the people that you're nurturing, just kill it. It's just, you love it.
Well, let's talk about that. Um, what do they typically are doing differently than what they should when they come in into that ball of clay?
What are they doing differently? Well, a lot of it's because a lot of the people that I have on my team, we're not in telecom before. So they had certain attributes that were really attractive to me, right? So I mean, I've turned away, like in, rock stars, if you will, in the industry because I just had a very strong belief that they would come in and really be more disruptive and be more kind of, less teamworky, less, a very lone wolf kind of, their egos, and that can be very disruptive to a team. To me, team means a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think what they're doing differently is not who they are, but just learning the ropes, and just kind of, and sticking to it and getting through the bad days and realizing, and that those are going to happen, and celebrating the wins properly, and clear. My job is to make sure that I've cleared a path for them, and I've built some kind of highway that they can see a future for themselves, and so even if they got to take a left or right turn or once in a while, that they that's okay. They're going to succeed, and they're going to have a lot of a growth in their career.
Because usually people, when they are getting into sales, they follow their instincts naturally, right? They got a feeling,
Yeah.
but that
Hmm.
feeling tends not to be the right feeling.
You're not wrong. Yeah, and I'm as guilty as of anybody.
Yeah.
And even today, I've been in sales for a long time, and every once in a while, I'll slip back into some bad habits, and or just or you know what I'm going to say. Sometimes we can get a little lazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes, what, when we know, hey, I've got to do a little bit more homework. I've got to do, and you don't, and you think you sometimes your ego gets in the way, and oh, I can wing it, I got this, and then you walk into a situation and you're beaten like a rented mule. It's just terrible, right? You're just kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, I could have done better than that.
You just feel your foot going into the trap, and then all of a sudden you're
Oh,
upside down hanging from a tree.
terrible. It's terrible. Yeah,
Right.
I know. Yeah, you dust yourself off because you do better, and so
Well,
you're more disappointed in yourself than anything else.
that's it, because it takes time to have that mindset that you described about going in there, listening, trying to understand the situation, what they're trying to accomplish, and what's
Yeah,
behind that,
exactly right.
right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because 6 gigabits is their solution, but what's causing that request?
Yeah, 100%, Brian. That's exactly right. Why are we here? Why do you think you need this? Let's
Yeah,
start there.
yeah,
Yeah. Someone's told you that. Or were they trying to sell you something because there's a lot of money in it? Or did they really did they peel the layers back and go right to the studs?
yeah.
Let's get to the studs, build on that, and then we'll know where we are. And there's a lot of times the solution can't all be done in one shot. Okay, well then let's build a roadmap. Let's figure this out. It might be a 5-year plan. That's okay. But you should know now. I mean, it's too important to just kind of like, especially in communications where, some people is like, they pick up the phone, they're like, okay, well, my phone works. Until it doesn't, why would I do anything? Right? It's just kind of like your car. Well, I'm not going to take it into the shop to get it all rehauled. It's working. It's getting me from A to B. However, when you experience the pain of not having a phone system or your phones work or your internet shut down, one of my sales fellows gave me the analogy, and that I always go back to. It's kind of like, when you're in the airport and you got the cheap flight or whatever, and all of a sudden it's a nightmare and you can't get a hold of nobody. You don't know what's going on, or you have a sorry, what do you call travel agent, you know and I just got to call my travel agent, they'll fix me. That's kind of like where we like to paint the pictures, like, yeah, you can certainly get that free VoIP system online, but what's going to happen when it doesn't work one day, because it will happen.
Yeah.
You want that experience, and if you can sort of communicate that properly without fear selling, but it's reality.
It
All
is
of a sudden you can't
reality.
communicate for a couple of weeks. What would that feel like? How would that affect your business? Then you get people thinking, it's like, yeah, you know what, that would probably be a bad day or week or whatever.
And what do
So
you think if you were to build, let's say you had a DNA lab, how would you build the perfect salesperson for your market?
Oh man, Brian, you got good questions.
What
You
mix
should be
would there
doing
be?
you should be doing this as hot ones. Hey, we'll just do wings while you ask all these questions because I'm
Oh
already sweating.
God.
Hey, uh, um, geez, a lab like little Frankenstein salesperson. Yeah, I think I would build someone first of all that at the very at the basis they have to have integrity, right? They have to genuinely care of that they are doing the right thing for the client. That if they need to, if they're not the right solution, that they're honest, and then they can, at least give them advice in that direction, and then not just always try to, okay, well, I can't sell this, I'll sell something else.
Yeah.
Um, and the ability to learn. I think with the youth today and with technology, how it's moving, they learn very differently than maybe Brian, maybe you or I did. I mean, things were definitely, our learning paths were very different. Now they're extremely dynamic. You can get a Harvard degree at home.
Just get on YouTube, right?
Literally.
Listen to
Right,
podcasts.
and usually
Yeah.
would yeah, podcasts. I mean, and there's a lot of research that really suggests that the youth today they'll probably be, because with AI and everything else, and we're really heavy in AI and learning that they'll probably change their careers or have to be re-educated 2 or 3 different times.
Yeah.
So someone that's willing to change. So the ability and the adaptability to change is actually one of our values here at Sunco. But I mean, the ability to embrace change is very, very key. That it's not going to shake you. That you realize, okay, that's all right. Got to pivot. We can move with this, and we're going to learn something new. There are some people that are just they're very adverse to change, in because they've been very successful.
They know.
And
Yeah.
it's like, and then the fear of like trying something new is real. It's real, and I feel it. I mean, if I
Of
try something
course.
new
Yeah.
or a whole new, and it's like, oh God, how am I? This is really, we're
More.
gonna take this on. All right,
And you
but
brought up
you
caring. What does that mean to you in your world?
uh, that when you really care about something, or like your solution or your client, everything else falls into place, Brian. I mean, you're really, you're going to your team and you're pleading your case, and you're like, this is their problem, right? And and sometimes you don't get the answers you like, and sometimes you got to keep digging. Sometimes you'll get a team member that's just maybe not hearing you, or sometimes maybe I haven't heard the client. But I mean, if you really care, you'll know that at the end of the day, that solution that you're providing is going to make their business better, their lives better, or that it, and if you care, that everything else will fall into place. If you don't, if you think, oh, I just got to put A and B and C and D together because that's what the book says, uh, I think you're gonna have a lot of a harder time succeeding, in my opinion.
And I think a lot of reps don't care as much as they should because it hurts when you lose when you care so much. If you don't care,
That's a really good point, Brian. Honestly,
right?
that's a super good point because sometimes I don't even sometimes appreciate that. We put a lot of work into it, and it's kind of my job to say, hey, yeah, dust her off. We'll get the next one, but really taking the time to maybe talk about that, about, yeah, you know what, we really wanted this one, and for whatever reason, it fell through. We didn't get it, or maybe we've lost a client.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's really tough, and so and especially someone that you've had a relationship with, that sometimes you take advantage of those, and you could be like, oh yeah, Brian, he'll never leave me, he loves me, blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden you find that, oh, guess what, Brian is leaving. That is really hard, and the best you can do is give them an amazing offboarding experience, so maybe they'll come back. But
Amazing
I mean, other than that,
offboarding experience.
right? I mean, other than that, it's a tough one. You're right. I don't spend it. I'll say this: I don't spend enough time talking about that as maybe I should. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, that's it because when a rep really cares about a deal, they're going to go the extra mile. They're going to be
Yeah,
looking for what
yeah,
else they can do. They're going to be
yeah.
wondering what the competition's doing. They're going to
Sure.
try and find the extra step that the client wants to see.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, even internally,
Of
you know,
course,
because
yeah.
you sometimes you go to your resources and you're just like, yeah, you know what? Ah, man, really, it's going to cost that much? Sometimes you go to your vendors of when the guys that they take advantage of you. Like, oh, I know Bill's not going anywhere. He's going to always buy my fiber. He's going to always buy my this or whatever. I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
there's other players. You know, because at the end of the day, I have a responsibility to my client, not you. You know, they have to trust that I have done everything and I haven't just phoned it in and taken the easy route every time. No, sometimes it is easy, but a lot of times no. These are complex solutions and they take work. Yeah, and it means a lot for sure.
And, certainly as a manager, your reps want to know that you care about them beyond just their quota, just beyond their contribution to your number.
Really? No, I'm just kidding. Yes, of course.
I hear
No,
that. I got a card once.
yeah, yeah. Hallmark. Yeah. No, it's kind of. I honestly believe because I'm not just, it's not just a bumper stick. I really personally do have a investment in my team and I really want to understand what's gets them up and what keeps them going because if I don't know that, how do I motivate? How do I get them, to be excited about something, and if I don't, and maybe they're having some struggles at home or maybe there's, or there's some, issues that we need to work out and you don't I don't think you can learn those things if you're just asking questions. If you're just like, oh, how's your day? Okay, good.
How many
How is your,
calls?
no, yeah. I mean, just stopping by, hey, just seeing one pass you out. Hey, let's have a quick game of crib or whatever, and just chat things out or whatever. You learn a lot. But I mean, we're all from pretty tight. But I mean, it's you just got to. I think but you also have to want it. Like I generally like I like talking and I like learning and I hate small talk. I mean, if there's anything about sales that I probably don't like is sometimes when you're in the networking or whatever environment and you got to start with a small talk, it's like, ugh, I hate it. So my team all knows that I like just talking, deep and getting right at it.
Right. Because as a leader, when you have their back and you want to give them
Mm.
feedback, they take it that it's
Yeah.
in their own interest, that it's not you judging them. It's not Bill
No.
O'Brien
No.
saying, oh, that call didn't go well. It's like, I noticed this thing. Would you like to talk through it? If they sense that
Yeah.
it's about making them better versus just judging.
It's very true, and I think you know what, being able to be a bit vulnerable on yourself as well. Like I've shared numerous things, and I never thought I would share with people and that I work with, and I tend to be kind of person I'm not. I don't really you know get to be deep on myself, but I mean I've went there, and and I think I need to be because it shows that I trust them too, right? And I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your go-to sales rep interview question to determine if they're going to make it or not?
Oh, geez, I wish I had a better answer for this. For me, when I'm like looking at a potential candidate, I just like to learn the story of their
Uh,
history, like because that to me that just tells like why okay what happened to this job and why did you leave? Usually the devil's in the details of why they left,
Yeah.
and that's where all and then I can find out a little bit more about them on the personal side, right? I don't really have if you're if you're a tree, what kind of tree would you be?
I didn't mean
Or
those type of
like,
questions.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, ultimately, there's like maybe where do you see yourself here in 5 years? Like, it's kind of they see if they what kind of vision they have or ambition.
Yeah.
Um,
Because some
that
leaders are
that
looking for like the hard worker or the grit,
yeah. I,
but
I some
that can be tricked,
yeah.
right? That can be gamed.
It can totally be so. I mean, you can say anything. To me, you can't really. Your history is gonna. You know, you can say anything. To me, you can't. You can't really. You can say anything. To me, you can't. You can't really. You can say anything. To me, you can't. You can't really. 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 You can't
tell you.
tell the better story. It's just going to kind of like, because you can't say, yeah, I left this job because, I didn't like the boss 3 times in a row, and then just say, oh, I love everyone I work with,
Right.
Okay.
I'm easy to work
You-
with.
Yeah, well, maybe, right? So it's definitely um is a fun process. And listen, I've been beat too. I mean, I've had, the sales person that I'm just like, oh, I gotta have this guy. I mean, he's gonna be great. And then yeah, and then find out, then it was kind of big talker Betty Crocker. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, they just really didn't.
Well,
They
that's
were
it.
just all smoke and mirrors, right? And
And
so
what do you think about sales, or how do you view sales as different than most people?
I think, there sometimes, especially in sales, there's the impression that, it's all just golf and cigars and bourbon and celebrate it or whatever. And
Personality, likability.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's just shaking hands and kissing babies. They don't see the, I mean, how do I get this fella to get over his get out of his valley, or like, man, these are really aggressive numbers. I mean, ultimately the buck stops with me. I can't say, oh, Bill, where's your not, how come, we didn't make, well, oh, it's Joe's fault or it's Ben's fault. No, it's me.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I did not deliver, right? And those are things that, you know, not everyone sees, especially if they're not in sales. Sometimes you get sometimes you get the nice paycheck, but there's sometimes you don't,
You get a paycheck.
and right, it happens. And those aren't the ones you see on the
On the
TSN
movies. Yeah.
sports highlights in the movies. No, those aren't the days you see, right? But a salesperson can't show that. They can't go, oh man, I made no money. No, they got to keep the chin up. They got to keep going.
Yeah.
And sometimes the impression that, oh, sales is a walk in the park. Yeah, when you're trying to figure out how you're gonna make the mortgage payment or the car payment next month, that ain't no walk in the park. So
And what was the big surprise or thing that you didn't anticipate when you got into leadership that you found out?
yeah, that's a good question too. Because when I was offered a job as a sales manager, um, I never done sales management before. I had my own company, so you kind of
Yeah,
you
some
manage
leadership.
everything,
Yeah.
right? It was never just focused on sales. And I remember saying in the interview, and I was like, I don't know, I've never done it before. And so there's a lot of learning, but I think because there's ego and there's, oh, I'm great at this. Well, it can be easy to make everybody great at this. One of the biggest lesson was
Just
like,
do what I
no, I mean,
say.
yeah, right. That was probably the biggest lesson. No, you can't do it the way I do. I've got to learn about you so I
Yes.
can I can help you with your style. Like I can, there's best practices and there's all sorts of great things you can do, and that we do. But what works for Joe won't work for Sam. What works for me isn't going to work for Sally. It's just not. So how do I get the same result with that personality or with that
Yeah.
approach? Some people are wallflowers. Some people are, the flower
Right.
and the bee. That whole thing,
Yeah.
right? So how do you do that? And it's a discovery process. And there's stuff that some works and some don't. It's trial and error. And I still learn that all every day, Brian. I mean, there's some days I'm just like, man, how do we
Yeah, why aren't you
get
just doing
how do
what
I
I told you?
just get through this? Yeah. If you just kind of did these things, you would be, in a different place. But then I'm like, but why isn't he? I'm not doing something right
Right.
here. I'm not either delivering the message or I'm not providing the right, sort of, path to take. So I look more internally, and I think that if anything, and there's a girl I worked with at my last post, and she really taught me is just like looking inwards, and yeah. So and she was just really instrumental in me learning to just listen and and like it's a different place for them than it is for you, right? So
And did the entrepreneurship stints help you become a better salesperson?
Well, because I was a technician,
Oh,
when
okay.
I started that business, and I had a big contract right out of the gate. So I didn't really have to sell, but it was funny. But I knew I had to be a hustler. I knew I had to. So I'd get up in the morning, I'd put my little suit on, I'd go to like a network club, then I'd go and I'd put my tool belt on, I'd do an install, and then at night I'd put my little suit back on and go to the, right. Yeah, hustle. I look back on that now. I'm like, how did I do that? I was like, I like the energy and whatever, but it was your own. It was like you were creating something. It was your baby. It didn't feel like work. You just, it was exciting and new and fun, and all of a sudden, one day I realized, oh, I'm, because I'm in sales. I didn't even realize it. And that, oh, I'm actually kind of good at sales. I never thought about that, but people trusted me because I was a technician first. So
Right. You
I
knew
was
your
there I
stuff.
wasn't there to sell them, but I knew my stuff, and I would go and I was like, what we should do, and that's how I've always to this day sort of made my approach is a very kind of from the ground up. And yeah, but I didn't even, someone one day realized, oh, I'm kind of really good at sales, but again, not wanting to call myself a salesperson for whatever reason. I know it sounds
Well,
terrible, but
I just see it. If people have more of an entrepreneurial mindset as a rep, they always tend to do better because
yeah, I
it's
think you're right,
personal
Brian.
ownership, right?
Hmm.
You knew if you
Yeah,
didn't go to those networking things, no matter how good you were, you wouldn't get as much business.
you're right. Yeah, you're true because bottom line is if I'm not doing it, no one's doing it for me. I'm not going to still get a check every 2 weeks. Right? I'm not going to get paid. I'm not going to make rent. I'm not going to. I remember I still had my my first little office, my little whatever, it was like a closet in my apartment, and I was just renting this apartment or whatever, and this desk I got it at a garage sale, and it literally like had 1 centimeter clearance, on either side, and and I had my accountant in there teaching me how to do my own books, right?
Yeah.
And learning that part about business and then finance or whatever was really really important. um but yeah, because ultimately I couldn't afford to have him do my books. I had to do it myself. But yeah, I had to really at the end of the day um just embrace the fact that there's no safety net, and no matter, but if I put something in, I would get something out. And I think that is still true with everything I do today. No matter whatever I put out or put into it, I will generally get something back.
Great way to end it. Thanks for your time today, Bill. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Oh, yeah. Well, they want to find us we're at Sunco Communication and Installation, and up here in Canada, we're a national telecom company. They can find me on LinkedIn, Bill Gamble. And I'm not great at the rest of the social media, but happy to connect with people on LinkedIn and say hello. Yeah, big fan of yours, Brian. I like what you do.